Hey guys, it's Tom coming to you. Talk a little bit today about something of a mouthful of a word, phenomenology. Phenomenology, which is sort of a predecessor to existentialism, which I've discussed in other quarters. But before turning to phenomenology proper, I suppose I should contextualize my little discursus here. A few weeks ago, actually, it was more like 2 months ago, I think, I did a video about a work by a cat named André Gorz, Critique of Economic Reason. And among the major planks of his argument there is the contention that we have lost touch with our life world. Now, what does he mean by the word life world or Lebenswelt? Is the German, because it's actually something of a technical locution that I don't know if it originates specifically with Edmund Husserl or with Martin Heidegger. I think it tends to be somewhat more tightly associated with Edmund Husserl in any event, though those two guys are in deep conversation with each other. Setting that academic tangent over here, right? What do we mean by the life world? We mean the world as it is, in fact, encountered. Which is what brings us back to the question of phenomenology that originates in the contemporary sense with Edmund Husserl, who was concerned that the approaches that we were taking, are taking, have been taking to the formulation of the world had lost touch with a ground in experience proper. So in a sense, you could say that Edmund Husserl was a radical empiricist, in that he believed that it was no longer sufficient to be content merely with the propositions that were in front of us, but that we had to see how those propositions and the relationships which obtain among them were arising from our concrete experience. In some ways, there's a resonance with certain aspects of logical positivist thought, but he breaks off in a very different direction. And this is why I would characterize his empiricism as specifically radical. The logical positivist narrative, or if you like, the narrative of contemporary secularism, which is very naturalist or physicalist in bent, as even a cursory examination of the literature will disclose, presumes, in virtue of its naturalism or physicalism, that the real goods, the stuff of the world, are whatever constitute matter and energy in a ruddy, almost atomist sense. And even if the account isn't literally atomistic, a la Democritus or Lucretius, or in the ancient sense, there's definitely that feel to it, that we just need to get down to this stuff, this objective substratum, and that's where the rubber hits the road. And in our culture, we tend to equate the world in which we live with the world as imagined thus. One of the ways that this can be evidenced, ironically enough, is in efforts of people who want to apologize or argue for more literalist reading of the Christian Bible, the way that they want to try and actually understand books like Genesis in literal or scientific terms, as if 7 days was to be construed as, 168 hours, as if that was the space of the world's creation in a very concrete way, and so on through the whole Bible. So there's this very flat, sort of interpretively one-dimensional tact But what's implicit in that interpretive project is that they have conceded a materialist metaphysics. So the world is actually this very blocky, sort of congealment of so much stuff. And then you can tell by my inflection that I find this particular approach, this materialist, this physicalist approach, odious to my disposition for reasons which in a sense relate directly to Husserl's effort to move beyond this mere materialism, because there's a difference between understanding the world as made up by all this blockiness and by understanding the world as it actually discloses itself to us, as a space in which there's not merely objective material arising, but a world, a life world that has two participatory dimensions, a subjective dimension and an objective dimension. He referred to them as the noetic and the nomadic poles of experience. And the threshold to cross to get to this sense of consciousness as exhibiting this two-dimensional aspect is the quality of consciousness as fundamentally intentional. What do I mean by intentional? I don't mean by intentional deliberate, which is how the word is often used in our everyday or colloquial speech. What I mean by consciousness as intentional is that it always has an aboutness to it. Every mental act is about something. I feel this feeling, I see this vision, I hear this sound, I think this thought, etc., etc., etc. And this quality of consciousness as always being intentional, always being about something, always having both a pole of object, or the noema, or the noemata, and subject, co-arising in a kind of encounter, indicates that the world, to pretend that the world is made up merely of stuff, is to truncate how reality actually unfolds. And reality does not unfold as a merely objective condition. It is something more fundamental, and can be constituted by the categories of either subject or object. They are intermingled, not just conceptually in the sense of like hot and cold, up and down, right and left, one and none, continuity, discontinuity, and so forth. They are, the claim will be, actually connected on the level of being. They're ontologically linked. And the life world is that reimagination of the mere world of das Welt. Maybe it's der Welt. Sorry if I screwed that up. But the world is the life world. It's a space of both object and subject. Now, bringing that all the way back to André Gorz and his critique of economic reason. The problem is our culture tends to emphasize the object, the objective world, as constituting the true. But this leaves out the depth in which the true exhibits itself. And this has implications in critique of economic reason for how we understand the domain of the economic itself, which goes beyond not quite 10 minutes that I have here. So we'll have to take that up in another video, but I wanted to ground the remarks about the life world by pointing out the contribution of Husserl and phenomenology. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for now. Hope you guys are doing all right. Catch you later.